But if you keep telling yourself that you're excited instead of nervous, your body releases different hormones when it's excited versus when it's nervous. So when you're excited, you will release adrenaline, which is a really great hormone, right? And dopamine, which is a really anticipatory hormone. You're very excited about that. If you tell yourself over and over and over again that you're nervous about something coming up, then your body releases a stress hormone called cortisol. And so, and what cortisol it's a neural inhibitor. And in other words, it only gives you 2 or 3 choices: fight, flight, or stay where you are. But when you're excited about something, you see the possibilities open up about all the things and all the things that you could do and all the decisions that you can make. But when you're excited about something, you see the possibilities open up about all the things and all the things that you could do and all the decisions that you can make. So they're very different hormonal releases based on the words that come out of our mouth. We tell ourselves that we're excited, not nervous.
So wonderful. So wonderful. I know I wrote the book on positivity. Positivity brings profitability. And love to ask you, like, the difference between optimism and positivity.
Yes. So that's a very good question. So positivity is, you can use it as a mindset, and it's very, very valuable. And it's important, especially in the moment. It's very important. So to have a positive outlook on life, to have a positive frame something that's difficult in a positive way, that's that reframing piece. So positivity is very, very important. In general, it's a feeling and a mindset. Optimism is different, though. Optimism is always giving ourselves a reason to be optimistic. So it's more long-term, like a longer burning fuel. Positivity is a shorter burning fuel, like a burst of nitro, right? A burst of gas. Optimism is a little bit more long-term. And so when we talk about having an optimistic view of life, I would ask someone, well, what reason have you given yourself to be optimistic? And so, for example, if someone said, I'm going to jump out of a plane, parachute out of a plane, I would say, well, have you done it before? Like, what reason have you given yourself to be optimistic? And optimism can be very, very powerful, because you keep convincing yourself that you can do something because you've proven it to yourself in the past that you can do it. Okay, so that's optimism. Optimism always requires a reason to be optimistic. So if I'll ask an athlete, hey, are you optimistic about a game coming up? And they can say, yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. I'm very optimistic. And I might say, well, why are you optimistic? And so their response can be, I've eaten well, I've slept well, I've practiced hard, I've done my homework, I've studied the film. And I can say, yes, you have every reason to be optimistic.
Optimistic.
So optimistic is a longer term, positivity is shorter term, but both are very important, and both play very important roles in how we do business and how we play sports.
So true, so true. And optimism, that's so well said, what you're saying. It's in the future. It's being optimistic for some positive outcome that's going to come in the future. And positivity right now, being positive in taking care of the things that will make you even more hopeful and optimism.
Yes, you have it perfectly down.
It's like hopefulness and optimism, and maybe good wishes. We just give people good wishes, right?
Yes.
You say, optimistically, we are hoping that you're going to do a good job, whatever, right?
Yes, because you've given yourself reasons to be positive in the past, right? You've given yourself reasons to be optimistic. So, for example, if you, let's say, you are working with someone who you've had a lot of good experiences with, let's say a partner. And so you can say, I'm so optimistic about this relationship because In the past, it has always performed and done well. And so I'm so optimistic about the future because the past has been so positive. And so we're very optimistic about the future because of our past experiences. And so the trick is to keep giving ourselves reasons to be optimistic. So when it comes to business, if somebody says, the business isn't coming to me and I'm not doing very well, I'm not getting a lot of sales calls. And I would say, so what reason have you given yourself to be optimistic that you're making all these connections? Like, how many phone calls have you made? How many conversations have you had? How much networking have you done? And if that person says, well, I haven't done very much of those things. And I said, well, you don't have a reason to be optimistic. But if you're making the phone calls and making the connections and investing in relationships and investing in networking, then you have every reason to be optimistic that things will turn around, because they will.
I love it. I love it. I think this is really great, guys. Everybody listening and watching to us on YouTube and all, it's so important that we are doing the things that are going to bring the results.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I just picked up from you. Many times we want to be hopeful and optimistic, but not really do the groundwork.
Exactly.
The groundwork is so important.
Hi, you are listening to Syndication Made Easy podcast. We will be right back after this short break.
Hi, thank you so much. This is Vinney Chopra, and thank you for subscribing to my podcast and YouTube channel and Facebook pages and all the great things, and LinkedIn. Connect with me. I come live to you every Friday at 9:30 Pacific with Vinney and Bo show. Please also look at that. And also the podcast, which is my apartment syndication made easy. The book I wrote a couple of years back became international top seller on Amazon International now. And then we like to bring great guests for you every week or twice a week sometime to give you a lot of great knowledge. So please subscribe. You give us 5-star reviews on the iTunes. The better the guests we can bring, and our ranking will go higher also. Thanks again for following us and really getting the most out of it. Please comment, like, share, because we would love to bring better and better material for you.
And that groundwork of those activities, and like I remember, successful people like to do the things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. It's just so 100%. Interesting.
100%. And that's what, sometimes when we're focused on outcomes, we can get discouraged, right? If we're only focused on the big long-term things. But if we keep doing all the daily things, we have a reason to be optimistic about the future, because we're doing all the daily things that we need to do. And so how powerful is it for us to walk around being optimistic? I mean, how powerful is that? Because we have an optimistic view of the future, because right now we live in a very negative world, and there's so much negativity in the world right now, and everybody's angry, and the economy and this. Listen, there's opportunity everywhere if we'll just open our eyes. And just like in the past, where we might have had an economic downturn, or there might have been challenges or whatever, but if you're optimistic, you see opportunities there, because there were opportunities in the past that you capitalized on. So work on the reasons to be optimistic, and the outcomes will come. We say in sports, you cannot control outcomes, but you can put yourself in the best position to win.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You're not always going to get a hit in baseball. You're not always going to get it. You're not always going to throw the perfect pitch, because some batter might hit it, but you can always put yourself in the best position to succeed. And that's what optimism is about. It's about putting yourself in the best position to succeed. And then when good things come your way and the outcome turns out for you, then it's great. You put in the work, and you have every reason to be optimistic that things will turn out positively. And even when they don't turn out positive, all you have to do is reframe the picture and choose the positive side to it, right? Reframe the picture so that we can focus on the positive things.
I love it. I love it. No, this is the key. Very, very, very profound. Very nice. Let me ask you another question. How can we get our emotions under control when things aren't going well?
Oh,
See, life comes on the way, right? We come through so many ups and downs in life, and lots of us really get down, down, down in the spiral. Few stay there, and few just look that silver lining on the dark cloud, right? So,
yes.
yeah, tell us, how could we control those emotions?
Yeah. Well, you know that in athletics, that's really important, right? Because when an athlete is, let's say, overly positive or they're overly negative, they both can be detrimental at times, because sometimes when you're overly positive as an athlete, sometimes when you're overly positive, you forget what you're supposed to be doing. So for example, if you're watching American football and a team scores a touchdown and everybody's celebrating in the end zone, but you were celebrating too much and you got a penalty because it was a delay of game or something. And then the kicker has to move back a few yards to kick the extra point. And let's say they miss. So the over positive and not dealing with reality, not making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Sometimes an over, like an excess of response of positivity, without having put in the hard work. Like if you're very, very, let's say, I'm just hopeful, I'm just positive, I'm just hopeful, but I'll say, well, what reasons haven't you given yourself to be that positive or hopeful, right? So you have to give yourself those reasons, but sometimes you can be overly positive and not really use your head because you're so engaged in the positivity. And we know that negativity really works. It just works for the bad, like if we're negative, then negative things are going to happen. They're going to happen. And so emotionally regulating ourselves is very crucial, whether we're an athlete or in business. So there's something in my industry called the Yerkes-Dodson scale. And it's called the Yerkes-Dodson scale. And it's sort of an XY axis. And on one side, the vertical line, you have performance. On the bottom side, you have emotional activation, like how emotional you are. And so where we find the best performance on this scale is right in the middle. If the bottom line is scale between 1 and 10, between 4 and 6 is our peak performance.
And then performance. Wow. It's a bell curve.
It's a bell curve. It's at the peak of the bell curve. So you can be underactivated emotionally. It's like a team that is just like they're just walking around sleeping, right? They're not engaged. So they're underactivated. Sometimes you can be overactivated in a business deal or in sports, and you're too emotional. Like you've got your adrenaline's running a little bit too much. And sometimes we'll say something that we shouldn't have said or done something we shouldn't have done because it was too emotional. But if we can kind of stay in that 4 to 6 range, that's where we find peak performance mentally and emotionally for athletes and people in business. So if you're overactivated, the universal sign to come down a few notches is to take a deep sigh, a deep breath. Calm down, and so our heart rate drops, we gather our mind, and we can emotionally regulate ourselves. If we're underactivated, and let's say we're afraid or we're avoiding doing the small things that we need to do, we're underactivated. We're not emotionally engaged enough. And so there are some things that we can do to increase our emotional activation. And so we just have to know where we are on that activation scale so that we're between that 4 and that 6. And that's where our best performance is when we're emotionally regulated.
I love it. Love it. Love it. No, very, very profound. Very nice. How would you say, what are few mental performance skills that we could use today? What are some of these skills? Yeah.
That's such a good question. Yeah. Oftentimes when I work with